Wow, welcome. It is so awesome to be here today. We're so glad to have you in this workshop. Today we are going to cover some really important things about understanding who you are, what you are, and why you do the things that you do. So the takeaways from today that we hope you walk out the door with is to understand the color code. We're going to spend a lot of time on the color code and where you fit into the colors. We're also going to help you understand what motivates people and how to capitalize on their strengths as well as understand their limitations. We're also going to help you build stronger relationships, not only for your family, but also for your interactions with your team and your customers. And we all know that that's really important, right, Tracy?
Yes, it is, absolutely. So let me give you some statistics about why relationships are important. The number one reason why people quit their job is they don't like their boss or their coworkers. 85% of people were fired last year because of relationship problems, and 19 to 29% is the amount of time that a leader spends resolving conflict. That's a lot.
Yeah, relationships are really important. It's vital for your success in this industry and in life to understand how relationships work together and building strong relationships to be effective. So today, we're going to spend some time talking about the color code.
Woohoo! So how many of you took the test? Raise your hand. Okay, pretty good amount. How many of you are going to leave this seminar and go take the test? Great job. Good answer.
Okay.
Right answer. So for those of you who did, you're going to see some leaders and where they fall into the color zones. But for those of you who did take the test, I would love for you to stand up if you came up as a red. Stand up. Look around. See if you see someone who you know. Okay. Funny because red, it says power. I see in the back of red going, I'm red! Okay, how many of you can sit down, thank you. How many of you came up blue? Stand up, blue. Nice, look around. Wow, more blue than red in this room of the test takers. How many, you can sit down, thank you. How many came up white? Stand up. Nice, love it. How many of you came up yellow? You can sit. So they're known for their enthusiasm and their optimism. Those people are a party waiting to happen. So most of you who have taken the test and who will take the test will see that you came up with a secondary color that was kind of a strength as well. Did some of you see that? Did you notice that you had a secondary? Me too. And so, but many of the people on my team kind of came up with like sort of evenly blocked in all four quadrants. Anybody kind of come up with that where you didn't really have necessarily a strength in one, maybe slightly, but sort of balanced? So I have a lot of people on my team who took it who did come up somewhat balanced. And what they came up with is, number one, first of all, there are some people who don't want to take this because they feel like this puts you into a box. We aren't trying to put you into a box. It's just to help you understand, remember to connect and to motivate your team. So it's to help you understand yourself and others, not to put you into a box. But then there are those who you might come up kind of even, where you're like, put me in a box. I don't line up with anything. And so, Leanne, will you talk a little bit about those people who come up where they don't really have one, then they feel like they want to really identify with one?
Definitely. That happens all the time. I get approached with this question. I was like 25% this color, and I was 26% that color, and 20 this color. What I usually recommend is, what do you identify with most? There are 4 core motives, right? There are power, intimacy, peace, and fun. Which do you feel most attracted to? And then when you really zero it down, usually the people who have that kind of results with the assessment are the ones that have a hard time making a decision when they take the assessment. They're usually blues and whites because they take the time. They're like thinking through every little aspect of the assessment. So that's usually what happens when someone comes up to me and says, I'm not sure what I am. I'm like, yeah, you're probably a blue. And I can say that freely because the same thing happened for me. So I know that that's generally the case. But what you need to really get about the color code is the 4 core motives. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those as well. And what I want you to understand about that is you may be thinking, okay, well, I came up as a red. Yay! I'm a great leader. Woohoo! Or you might be sitting there thinking, well, you know what, I'm a white. Maybe I'm motivated by peace. Maybe I can't be that #1 leader. And we wanted to show you, we had our coaches, our top coaches take the assessment, and to demonstrate to you that your color does not define your success. Understanding what motivates you does. That really will empower you. So here are some of our top leaders at Beachbody and what their colors are. And you're going to see their faces a few more times through the presentation. So you can see Tracy. She's a superstar founding coach. She's a red. She's motivated by power. Her natural talents... Embrace it.
Embrace it, baby.
Her natural talents are leadership and vision. Look at Scotty Hobbs, one of our top 10 coaches. I don't know if any of you are in here who are surprised that we're using your faces. But Scotty is a blue, and his natural talents are quality and service. And if you've worked with him, you've probably experienced that about him, right? And then we have Katie Hefner. She is an 8-star elite coach, an amazing leader here at Beachbody. She's a white. Whites can be powerful leaders. Their natural talents are clarity and tolerance. And then there are the yellows. And you probably know some of those yellows because yellows make themselves known, right? Tara Carr, another, we just saw her recognized. She is one of our 15-star superstar coaches, right? And the natural talents of a yellow, they are all about enthusiasm and optimism. They are the happy people in the crowd, right? So it does not matter what color you are. If you're sitting here right now and you think you need the natural talents of another color, you're sadly mistaken. You can be amazing when you embrace who you are and what your qualities are.
Okay, so we're going to start with me. I'm going to fall on my own sword. We'll talk a little bit about the strengths, but just wait till we get to the weaknesses or limitations. So, as a red, our strengths are that we are decisive, we're confident, assertive, responsible, and proactive. We like to get it done. We are all about finding a way to get things done. Now, as we are going to describe each color, here's your first little assignment. I want you to write down a couple people who automatically come to mind, either in your business, in your customer base, or even in your own family. Now, what I did is, I'm a mom of 6, so I had my husband, all 6 of my kids, even my 8 and 10-year-old take the test. I had, because what am I? It's power, right? I had them take the test. You're all taking the test. That's it. I'm red. No. So they took the test. We had friends take the test. All of that was to help me really understand the colors, and I recommend that you do the same. And so as you start to see, write down a couple names of who who those strengths line up. Now I'm embarrassed to say, Leanne, reveal the other side. Our limitations as a red. We tend to be selfish, insensitive, argumentative, impatient, and always needing to be right. Those of you who live with the red, are you like, amen, sister? Okay, yeah, I know. They're a little bit, now, limitations are always going to be, we always like to identify with our strengths, but our limitations are something I know as I started to learn about myself to really work on myself and in that area, right? Because I can come across looking for the bottom line kind of insensitive. It's not that I'm insensitive, it's just that I am looking at something, I'm not really motivated by emotion necessarily as much as getting to that bottom line. And as a matter of fact, I'm even a little uncomfortable with the word power. And so when we were looking at this, I said to Leanne and Sandy, who helped put this all together, I said, I don't really like to think about power. I like to think of like we're empowered. We're empowered to make decisions. We're empowered to get it done. And Sandy goes, that is such a red, trying to redefine yourself. You are clearly a red, Tracy. So anyway, I want you to look at this. I want you to think of a couple people. And I want you to think about, as you're looking at this, one thing maybe if you are red, I'm speaking to the reds. If you're a red, look at the strengths and maybe write down something that you want to you're going to really work on to get better at. Because our strengths, we want to get better at our strengths, right? But also look at our limitations to really look at something that, you know what, I am a little argumentative. I do need to be right a lot. That's something I'm going to work at. Just kind of circle that or write that down right now. So you're writing down 2 names, and then you're going to write down for the reds, one strength that stands out to you that you really want to develop further, because it is really one that stands out to you that you identify with, and then a limitation that you're going to work on, because we all are going to need to work on our limitations, right? Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the blues. The blues, they are motivated by intimacy and relationships, and so their strengths are they're very caring, they are very sincere, they're intuitive, they understand the human condition, they're very loyal, and they're very thoughtful. Those are the wonderful strengths of a blue. And then, of course, as Tracy said, there are always limitations as well. So as you're thinking, we want you to do the same thing with every color. We want you to be thinking about the people in your life that fall into this category, and we want you to take 2 names and jot them on your list. So now the limitations of a blue. They can be self-righteous. They can be overly sensitive. They are perfectionists. They are worry-prone. I'm the mom of 4 kids myself. Ask my kids about that one. Worry-prone. And unrealistic expectations they have for themselves and for others. Those are the limitations. Now again, as Tracy said, when you see these for each color and for your color, your strengths will be what empowers you, and so will your limitations. And I say that because understanding your limitations so that you can fix them and work on them is extremely empowering. So let's move on. Let's look at whites.
Okay, so Katie is white, and you might be a white, and you're just really motivated by peace. Some of your strengths are you're kind, even-tempered. Do you see how, like, you might tend to think how Leanne said at the beginning, oh, I'm peace, I'd rather be power, that seems more like a leader. But when a leader leads people, and when you are leading people, isn't it beneficial to be even-tempered and kind and objective and diplomatic and inventive? I am married to a white man. That sounds funny. It's true. That's kind of weird. That should have been maybe a different color. Anyway, the strengths of a white, John Maxwell will say, in your business, staff your weaknesses. This is in a marriage situation or in a relationship in your business. White is a great complement for red as long as you can really focus in on those strengths. But the limitations are that they can be indecisive, silently stubborn, avoiding conflict, unexpressive, and appearing detached. Now that doesn't mean that you don't have feelings or that you don't care about anything, but that can appear to be, remember the yellows, they're super expressive. Imagine a yellow hanging out with a white, or you sign up a white coach, and that white coach comes in very even-tempered, and the yellow's all over, and they think, oh, they just don't care about this business. That's not true. So I'm just trying to connect it to you, so as you're starting to think about your team, remember, think of 2 people, either in your business or in your family or your life, that fall in this category. And for those of you who fall in the white in the color code, pick out a strength and pick out a limitation that you're going to work on to develop.
Moving right on to the yellows. Like I said, I have 4 kids. 2 are whites and 2 are yellows. I really thought they were blues. I wanted them to be me. Isn't that what you want on your teams? You want them all to be like you? Well, that's not the case. So yellows, their strengths are they're always happy. They're the sociable ones. They're the one at Super Saturday that are at the door. Yeah! They're the ones that jumped up, right? And said, yeah! We're yellow, right? They're always happy. They love to be around people. They have that spontaneity. They're just, you say, you want to go do this? They're like, yeah, let's go do it. When? Let's go. They're very charismatic because they can talk to people very easily, right? They're inclusive. They want to be a part of it, and they want to get people to join them and to be a part of something. So those are amazing strengths. But they can also be very challenging to work with because of the limitations. You're so chocolate, because you all are thinking, I know some yellows here. They can be uncommitted. They can be disorganized. They're afraid to face facts sometimes because they're too busy. They're living in the moment, right? They're unfocused and they can be impulsive. So when you think about that and you think, well, I'm a red and I have a coach who's a yellow on my team, and I'm like, where's your business activity tracker this week?
And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know, but you should see my new purse.
Exactly.
Amen, someone says a yellow.
Yeah. So, I know that those types of people, they need the reminders. You saw, we have amazing leadership in Beachbody that are yellows. So those limitations are not going to hold you down, right? Embrace them and work on what empowers you. So make sure maybe you have a customer that's a yellow. And you're like, did you put your order in yet? Did you go to the website? Did you order? They need the reminder, because as soon as you walked out the door, maybe they got focused on something else, right? So you can easily work with those types of folks when you understand relationships and what motivates people. Yellows are motivated by fun. So it's really, really important. So now we've given you kind of an overview of the color code. And there's so much more information on the color code. We could give you a day workshop on just how to have these interpersonal relationships with the different colors. So today is really just a basic overview for you. In the future, we're going to do a webinar for all of our Beachbody families to give you a little more depth on how to motivate with the color code. But for now, this is just giving you a basic overview. If you haven't taken the assessment, the link to the color code assessment is in the app. So go to the app and click on the link. We have a special arrangement with the color code. So if you go to the color code and put in the coupon Beachbody Coach, then you can get the assessment. You get the basic analysis for free, but we've also negotiated a price to get the full assessment, which tells you all 4 of your colors, unless you're a purist like some people in the room. You'll see that you have some of the strengths and limitations of all the colors that we've shown you. Probably some of you are sitting here thinking, yeah, but I do that. Right, you have some of those. We all have a combination. But what motivates your core is one of the 4 motives that we said. So what we wanted to address today was the fact that you've all probably heard of some of the other personality assessments that are out there. Personality Plus, GEMS. How many of you have done those assessments through your team? Yeah, right. So how does that fit in to what we're teaching you today? So I wanted to let Tracy go ahead and talk a little bit more about Personality Plus.
Here we go. So Personality Plus, how many of you read Personality Plus or taken the test by Florence Flitower? Oh, interesting. Okay, so they don't exactly line up, but I use Personality Plus. I love that book. I think it's an easy read. But what Personality Plus and GEMS, what Leanne's going to talk about in a minute, is really about your behaviors, the things that you do, whereas the color code is really more about what motivates you, and Leanne will get into that more. But what motivates you to actually act versus the behavior what everyone else sees. So that's how sometimes you may write it down and you'll find out, oh wow, I totally thought you were something else. But it's not necessarily your behaviors, but what's motivating you to act. Personality Plus. So if you were to line this up with the book, the powerful cholerics would be red, the perfect melancholies would be blue, perfectionists, loving great attention to detail, the peaceful phlegmatics, see how it kind of lines up with they're motivated by peace. And then the popular sanguines, they're the ones who gravitate to the center of the room. And I personally have, I'm just learning color code. I bought a couple books, and Leanne, was talking to me about it, and I find it so fascinating. I love studying people. And so, when you are helping your team to understand themselves, it doesn't matter which one you choose as long as you choose one, and now you'll kind of understand. So if you pick Personality Plus and that's the one you want to go with, and someone talks about their color or they talk about their gem, sometimes I'm like, can you tell me what that is? What's that for a choleric? Or what does that mean for a phlegmatic? It's good if you just write it down. So red is choleric, blue melancholy, white phlegmatics, and yellow sanguines.
So let's spend a little time with GEMS. How many of you done GEMS? Okay, GEMS tends to be pretty popular as well. And it was a little tricky when I've done a little bit of work with GEMS to try to line up the motive with the personality behaviors of the GEMS assessment. But generally, you can see that if you're a ruby, you're most likely a red, right? You're motivated by power. The blues, the analytical emeralds in the GEMS, a blue is very analytical, perfectionist. And then, of course, the whites that are the pearls in the GEM assessment, they're pretty closely aligned. And the sapphires are probably all sitting there like, yeah, that's me. They are the yellows with the color code. So we're not going to, like I said before, we're not spending a lot of time on GEMS and Personality Plus because we decided to really go into what motivates people. And the best assessment of that is the color code. You are born with an innate core motive, one of the four. Personality is your behavior. You can behave many different ways, but what motivates you is one of the four. So many people will come up to me and approach me about, well, she did this, this, and this, so she must be a red. That's absolutely not the case 100% of the time. Behavior does not dictate motive. Things happen in life. We go through traumatic experiences. We have loss in our life. We might have divorce. Things will impact how we behave in certain situations. But what motivates you always remains the same. And that's why when you take this particular assessment, it asks you to really go back to your earliest recollection as a child and think about how you behaved when you were really young, your earliest recollection, because it's a little bit different.
And it's mostly, can I just add into that, think of when you're a kid. You aren't thinking about what are they going to think about me when you're really a kid. I'm not talking about junior high when everyone's worried about what everyone's thinking. But when you're a kid, you just go with what motivates you. You don't want to do it if it's not fun. You don't want to do it if you're not the bossy one. So that's why it helps to think when you're a kid, because of life happenings, it sometimes can mask and you push down and you hide what your motive is to be more compliant or to not cause waves or to whatever. So really look, it's very helpful if you really assess yourself as a kid and maybe even talk to if your parent is still living, it's a great conversation starter. Talk about, here's some things about yourself, because maybe how you view yourself isn't necessarily how other people viewed you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know that I have older kids, a 26-year-old and a 24-year-old, and they were asking me, well, how did I do as a kid? My recollection was very different than what their recollection was. And the test pegged them perfectly. But the personality assessments like Personality Plus and GEMS, they are the behavior. They measure your behavior. And behavior modification is just one part of building strong relationships and improving your communication skills. That is 10% of what defines us. 90% of that is motive. If you really want to master relationships, knowing why you do something is the key to that mastery, okay? So that's why we use the color code in Coach Basics. Think about that. Think about knowing what motivates every single new coach on your team. Think about the power in that as their leader. Think about the power in that as the leader, knowing what your own strengths and limitations are so that you can utilize the strengths and limitations of the other coaches on your team so that you can all improve. So it's really very important that you understand the difference, because I get asked all the time about that.
And also, if you think like the behavior is what you see. If someone quits, you don't know the motive of why they quit. Maybe it got too stressful and it wasn't fun anymore for a yellow, so you just see that they quit. And maybe it's just a matter of bringing something fun back. You aren't doing the thing that they came in with they thought was really fun. Or the person who felt like they love peace. If a white coach on your team were to quit, maybe there was a fight or a conflict that happened in the team and you don't even know about it and they just quit. So if you dig down beneath the surface, understanding what motivates them, that might not feel peaceful to them anymore. Okay, so a big part of this is understanding who you are and to take responsibility for yourself. So as I said before, I had my husband take this test and all my kids too. But so my husband and I had this discussion, and we were disagreeing. And he said something like, "You know me, I'm just, it's hard for me. I need my space, or I need to be. I'm more detached. That's not who I am." And so it was one of those like, okay, we don't take this test so it's used as an excuse for behavior. We don't say like, well, I'm a red. Just get it done. That's how I am. I'm not attached to the emotion of things. So you just need to get over yourself and get it done. I can't tell you. I have said before to my family, never to anyone on my team, like, you just kind of need to get over yourself and get it done. And they're like, because emotion isn't attached to decisions for me. It's in my head. If I know it's right, I do it. I think like, well, if I have to do this, I have to do this. Even if it's uncomfortable, I just bulldoze through it. Whereas I have kids in my family who it's hard for them because emotionally it's scary to them. Or they don't want to do something because they had a bad experience before, and so they shut down. And so their emotions, they can't get over themselves because everything that they do is really connected. Their behaviors are connected to emotion. And so understanding that, I'm able to go back and say, now the big joke is, my husband will say like, Mom, she'll say like, get over it, move forward. And so the understanding yourself, taking responsibility. And I wrote down a few things. It's to know yourself, to know what you need to work on to be a better connector with other people, to understand others, and to serve others more fully. Not necessarily serving out of your own strengths, but serving in a way that makes sense to them. Because this is a people business, and because everything we do, whatever motivates us, we are trying to get motivated to do what? Serve people. Serve people in our family, in our friendships, in our team, in our customer base. And as you do that and you become a better connector and giving them what they need, they're going to feel valued and they're going to stay and feel a very important piece of the team.
And I want to add to that. It's about not being the victim. Okay? Take 100% responsibility for who you are and what you bring into a relationship, and don't be the victim of someone else's motivation and their strengths and limitations, right? When was the last time you heard someone say to you, I am so sorry, I totally messed that up, I take full responsibility, what can I do to fix it because I want to make it right? We hesitate to take 100% responsibility, but what does that do in a relationship? When you say that to someone, that is such a great motivator. It brings people together. That is that sincerity. It's saying, okay, it's Tracy saying, okay, you know what? I think I may have hurt your feelings because I said get over it. To your kids or something like that. I'm guilty of it too. I'm totally guilty of that. But understanding like what that means for you is saying, I'm a blue. I'm overly sensitive. I get it. So saying to myself, not that yellow really made me angry and hurt my feelings. It's saying, okay, I'm really overly sensitive. She didn't mean to do that to me. She's a yellow. This is what motivates her. I'm going to work on being overly sensitive to her. That's taking 100% responsibility. And that's embracing the strengths and the limitations of yourself and the other people in your life, whether they're your coaches or your customers. So now we want to talk about motivation. So we've given you the high level. So now let's talk about, there's 5 distinct things that you can do to motivate people. And we're going to talk about how you do that with the different, you have that list, right? You made that list of people we suggested, the reds, the blues, the whites, and the yellows. So now let's talk about how to motivate them. The first thing, people want to feel special. They want to feel valued. So when you are motivating a red, how you do that is they need to feel respected. That's very motivating for a red. For a blue, they need to feel understood and accepted. If you have a white on your team or in your family, they need you to be patient. They will feel valued when you are patient with them and you allow them to be heard. You give them the space to be heard. For the yellows on your list, they are motivated by praise. They feel special when they are appreciated. The second one
is that in order to motivate someone to behave differently, what is it that they have in mind? The future, right? Everyone wants a better tomorrow. The day that we say, you know what, everything's perfect right now, I don't even need to live another day, everything's good right now. No, we're always looking at how can we make it better? Can tomorrow be better? And that is by giving people hope. People need to feel hopeful that they can make a difference, right? And so for a red, they love a challenge. We love to be productive and feel like we are on task and working hard on something so diligently on our project to make sure that we get it done. But a blue really likes the security of details and to be able to exert their creativity. And if you're a blue, you're thinking, yes, that's totally me. And if you're white, you like to be kind of left on your own to get it done. Figure it out. You like independence, to work on your own, and to dream. These are the dreamers, dreaming big, thinking of things, but they need that little bit of space to do it. So if you're a red, like me, if I'm standing over a white and I'm saying, you know, come on, right now, I'll sit here with you. Let's walk it through together. Come on. They are not even hearing me anymore because they want a little bit of space. They want independence to work it through on their own. And then yellow loves it to be an adventure. They want happiness to be involved and to feel like, ooh, they're part of something really exciting and new. And so look at your list that you've written for each of the colors. And maybe even it's just across your mind, because that's the way my brain works, is I'm thinking, oh my gosh, lights are going off, bells are dinging. I get it. That's how come I haven't connected with that person, because I've been trying to motivate them in my red personality, or I've been trying to motivate them in my white personality, and they really don't, they want the security of details. They don't need an adventure. So really understanding your people, kind of hold that list up to those things that give them hope and be thinking about, what can you be doing?
And then third, it's motivating to people when you give them direction and you lead them, okay? But how you lead people is determined by what motivates them. So a red, to lead a red, they need to feel productive. You want to put a red in a leadership role because that will motivate a red. A blue, they are into the details. They are motivated by having time and to get things done. That perfectionist piece of a blue, give them the time to pay attention to those details. They'll feel motivated that way. The whites are motivated with patience. Give them time. If you are directing them to do something, give them time to get there. They do not like to be pushed. Doesn't mean that they aren't focused and just as, because they're a complementary opposite of a red is a white. They are just about getting from point A to point B, but they need time to get there, and they need to be heard. So lead them effectively. Yellows, they, of course, if you're going to lead them, include them. Make them a part of what you have going on with your team. And make sure that it's a happy place, right? That you're not, again, they don't want to be pushed. They don't like they're not into negative reinforcement at all. They're into positive reinforcement. And so the last one.
And then we want to put their wants first. What are their visions and goals? It's important. We need to know our people, right? And so the reds, they are bottom line people. They are logical. So for if you're a blue and your emotion is attached to everything that you're doing, and you want to talk to somebody about the vision and the goal who is a red, and you have all these details and how they make you feel and how you respond to that. Remember, if you're talking to a red, they're thinking like, just tell me what the bottom line is. What do you need me to do? Just tell me. It doesn't matter if there's I don't know. It doesn't matter if you're emotionally attached to it, because I'm not. So remember, I'm not saying I don't have emotions. I'm just saying, when a red makes a decision, emotionally attached. It's kind of from the head. And so, bottom line, remember, you have to lead people in according to their motives. And you might be feeling like, well, what about me? I have feelings too. Well, you're the leader, and the leader doesn't always have the freedom to get what they want. A leader needs to lead their team in the way that works best for their people. It's kind of where we grow up a little bit and go, okay, I have to get over myself and help this person in a way that makes sense to them. So blues love, the emotional connection and how they're attached to that. Okay, so white, they're reflective. They need time and space to think it through. So if you're a red and you're working with a white, you might say, like, so what do you think? You debrief them, you tell them everything, you say, so what do you think? And they might say, oh gosh, that's not how my brain works, I need to process a little bit. They're telling the truth. They aren't being stubborn. They aren't being rude to you. They aren't being disrespectful. They really do need time to process. Oh my gosh, it took forever in our marriage for me to figure that out. But everything was so great once I did. When he would say, poor Casey, he's like the source of my stories. But when he would say, like, I would say something to him, and I'd call him at work. Well, one of the kids needs we need to make a decision. What do you think? And he'd say, babe, I don't know. I'm at work. I can't. Well, just tell me what you think. I just need a quick answer because they're going to leave out the door, and I need to. He said, I can't. You need to make the call then, because I am just a blur right now. I'm concentrated on work, and I used to hang up frustrated, and he would hang up frustrated, and then he'd come home and I'd say, I'm sorry, I know, blah 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 blah. Then I would say, now I know to say, call him at work and say, hey, don't mean to interrupt you, but wanted you to give you some time to think about this because X kid wants to go Y place. And could you be thinking about it and let me know tonight or tomorrow morning? Sure. And by the time he comes home, he has a great answer. He has great wisdom. He's thought it through. And so give them that space. And then, for the yellow, it just needs to be exciting. There needs to be a social attachment to them. Do you have a yellow coach who sometimes the sky is falling because you talk to them and it's not fun in that moment? So they're like, I don't even know if this is for me. I don't know. I tried Beachbody. I don't know. This is just so frustrating. It used to be fun, and now I just don't even think it's for me. And I used to, not understanding this, think like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Why are they not wanting to do it? Or I'd be frustrated, like, come on, this isn't a party. This is business. Deep inside, I'm thinking that. I'm processing it through in myself. But really, what's happened is, the fun isn't there for them anymore. So connecting them back to the fun. Remember, you're good at this. Remember that time that when this happened, and then by the time they're like, yes, that was fun. Oh my gosh, thanks. Okay, I'm totally back in. Okay, thanks. And I'm like, but that's understanding your people and understanding that the sky really isn't falling, but for them it's not fun, and they really need that social component is we're talking about it together, we're working it through together. I've just edified them, right, because they love praise, told them how great they are at this. I'm not lying. I just know them well enough to know you're good at this. You should be doing this. Oh, yeah, you're right, Tracy. Okay, I'm totally in. So knowing that and understanding them is going to be incredibly helpful when you get those phone calls.
And I really want to add to this because this is extremely important, that vision and goals for the success of you and your coaches, it's really important to know what your vision is for yourself. If you look at our leaders in this company, they are visionaries. And you need to be a visionary as well. People are attracted to that. So one of the most important things you can do for the coaches on your team and for yourself is to define their vision and their goals. So this is really important to understand how to do that based on what motivates people. There are lots of little exercises you can do. There's things that I've put into training on creating a vision and outlining your goals, but some people may be intimidated by the process that you present them to do it. So this is the piece I want you to understand about this one skill to motivate is each one of these colors is different. And accept it and give them the exercise that they need that works for them. so they can have their vision and goals and be highly successful. So the last one that we wanted to talk about is to really be an encourager and be a motivator. So I want you have your paper, I want you to think about a person that comes to mind that has been a blocker in your life.
Be careful what you write down, because if your paper drops out, maybe write it in code.
Almost everyone can think of someone who has held them back in some way or another. And it was funny, when Tracy and I were talking about doing this workshop together, I think you said to me at one point, wow, I wonder how many people we think are blockers to our lives who really just are motivated by something different than who we are, right? We perceive them as a blocker, but maybe it was just that we didn't understand each other. Another great reason why understanding relationships and communicating is extremely important in your business and personal life. So everyone have a name that they put down on their list? All right. So the next one, who have you blocked? Based on what you've learned so far, think about the people that have come in and out of your life. Who have you blocked in your own life? And put their name down. How can you salvage that based on some of the skills you've just learned? Take ownership, right? Be responsible. Exactly.
Right.
Apologize. Fix it. That's 100% responsibility right there. Call up that coach who said, I want to quit, this isn't fun anymore. And take responsibility for your part and the reason that they feel that way. And then finally.
And then who have you motivated? Who have you actually motivated? Who have you been a facilitator for greatness? Write that person's name down. I think the most important thing about this aspect of it, you might start to feel like, well, this isn't getting me success points. I'm so glad that you came to this, because to me this is one of my favorite things, because you can figure out how you might be able to sell a challenge pack or 100 challenge packs, but then what? You got your points, now you have people you need to take care of. And a coach who is great in the initial sale, you want to hang on to your customers. You want to hang on to your team. If you're great at that initial bump, but then you're like, oh, crud, what do I do? Or maybe you've been a coach for a while, and you're thinking like, gosh, maybe you've been more of a blocker than you know, and you're like, why doesn't it work for me? Why won't people stay with me? People will go to somebody else. Have you thought about assessing yourself? How do you do it? How are you doing in these things? The more you learn, to me this is the most valuable piece, because if you can get great at serving people, connecting with people, really truly connecting with them, you will do well in no matter what you do. Your marriage will be fine. Your friendships will be great. Your family, the relationships with your children. And like Leanne said, there is so much value in saying, you know what? I'm just going to fall on my sword right here and just tell you. I tell this to my team all the time when they're dealing with a conflict or something. Call them and say, I'm going to fall on my sword right here and say, I think I've had a miss in how we've communicated. I take responsibility for that. I really do want this to be a great working relationship. How can I better serve you? Now that might seem scary. How many of you think that seems scary? How can I better serve you? Because then they're going to tell me and then I have to do it. Sounds really good, but then I have to actually do it. It's understanding them and maybe even having them, hey, for fun, would you mind taking this quick little test assessment and let me know what color you come up? And so, Leanne will talk about a tool that you can use before you get on the phone with them, but really understanding them and setting your mind right before you interact with them so you remember, okay, who do I have in front of me? Okay. And then the more you get to know them and interact with them, then you don't need to look it up anymore. But owning it and really really assessing yourself honestly. Don't beat yourself up. Be honest. Okay, here we go. I love this quote. A relationship is like building a house. Build it well or it will collapse. Marriages, relationships with your children, relationships with your parents, your siblings. I'm not talking about toxic relationships. This is just talking about, so many things can be solved with just communicating and talking to people and making an effort to understand them. If you want to lead well, you must know your people. With my team, as I said before, I have them take Personality Plus when a new coach, when we get on that new coach call, I'll say, I want you to buy a book. It's about $8. And if they don't have $8, I'll say, if you just Google Personality Plus, last name Littauer, Littauer, Florence Littauer is the name of the author of the book. Just take that test, print it out, take it, and send it to me. So they might not have the money. They might be like, I just bought a challenge pack. I'm not buying an $8 book. But if they're into it, I'll say that's a big piece, is us understanding each other so that we can have a great working relationship. And they're like, okay. Yellows are always like, oh, totally. I mean, what is it called again? I'm on Amazon right now. They want to be known. They so want to be known. And so it really starts with right off the bat. What they feel is, this person cares about me. They are taking the time to get to know me. And how many people in your life haven't taken the time to get to know you who maybe should have? And when somebody takes the time to get to know you and actually wants to, doesn't that make you feel important and cared for? That's the culture, what we want to cultivate in our teams, in our challenge groups, with our customers, in our families. So know your people. For me, this is how the bigger my team gets, that is, for me, really knowing my team, becoming friends with them, understanding that even if we're radically different, we have a love for one another and a mutual respect that comes from understanding one another. So if there is a misstep, we can go right to it and solve that.
I thought Tracy was perfect for this workshop because she has a tremendous team, and relationships are so important to her, and that is why you have such a following, right? I mean, you are the epitome of this quote, of building a foundation that is so solid.
Oh.
It's true. It's true. So we're going to wrap it up a little bit here. We only have a few minutes left. But we wanted to wrap it up by, again, giving you the message of first understand yourself. If you haven't already done the color code, go to the color code and take the assessment and know who you are. Accept who you are, all the amazing strengths you have, all the amazing limitations you have. Accept them all. Then understand others. Know yourself first. It's really important. Understand that Reds, they're confident, they're responsible, but they also are impatient. That's just one of the examples that's up there, right? Understand it, embrace it, who you are. You're going to be way more effective if you do that. Even though we're just giving you a little bit of knowledge here, I want you to go to the Color Code website. There's a blog you can sign up for. They have videos on YouTube that explain every color in like 3 minutes, each color, some of the things I've just shared with you. So make sure you check that out. And Tracy has the book, inexpensive on Amazon if you really want to understand it, and I hope you do all really want to understand it. And like I said, in the future, we're going to put together a webinar for you, so we'll give you a little more information on the color code and how to use it for your team. But, Tracy, there's no better person than to bring it home with this presentation than you, so.
Well, thank you, and thank you for that. I have taken a lot of time this is fascinating to me. And so I love studying people, because we're all people, right? So the more that we understand each other. I take notes in my book, and I wrote this down when I was reading this book, Color Your Future, Using the Character Code to Enhance Your Life. So as a leader, up your A game. Buy the book and really study it. Get to know it. And you're going to find and practice what you learn. I wrote, if you never stretch to embrace the gifts of the other colors, you're limiting your own development. And you're limiting the development of your team. Here's, in closing, what we want you to know. That you're awesome just as you are. You were created just to be you, and with all the experiences in your life that you created, mixed with your personality, your natural, your behaviors, mixed with the motives that motivate you to serve other people, you are awesome. And there are people who you will add so much value to their life by becoming the best version of you that you can be. I always tell my kids, you don't have to be the best. You have to be your best. Be the best version of you, because you're the only one of your kind. Here's what we want you to feel. Empowered to motivate people. you have a whole skill set. You have a natural desire, that's why you're here, a desire to serve people and serve people better. And so spend that time. You are empowered to help other people and motivate them. And lastly, what we want you to do is think about the people in your life, in your family. Maybe you have a job on top of Beachbody. Think of the people in your office. Maybe there's someone who you've not gotten along with for a while, and it could just boil down to you just talk kind of in your own color code. But if you really kind of dig in and go, I bet that person's a blue. I could talk to them about a blue. And then you realize you start opening them up the more you talk to them. So analyze yourself. Look at the list that you've made. Please don't take those papers and just chuck them into your backpack or your bag and then forget about them. Yellows. We know the whites are going to take time. They're going to assess. They're going to look at it. The blues are going to be perfectionists, and the reds are going to be like, oh, yes, I can do that. I'm already on it. I've already begun. Find what works for you. Think about, motivate. Look at your list. Look at your team. Assess your team. Have them take the color code and get these cards, get this book, and the more you invest in knowing and serving people, the better you're going to be. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Wasn't that great, you guys?